The box sat in the middle of my kitchen table like it owned the room. Red ribbon, glossy paper, a neat little tag in my daughter's handwriting, to Dad, with love. She had just called. Open it when I'm on the line, she said, bright and sugary. I want to hear your reaction. My wife stepped out of the hallway, saw the box, and went pale. Don't open it, she whispered. Why, it's from Lena. Please, not yet. The bulb over the table buzzed, the fridge hummed, warm bread smell drifted from the counter. I'd pulled a loaf out 20 minutes ago. When I leaned closer, something else cut through it, sharp, chemical, the kind that lives in hospitals and garages, not in gift wrap. You smell that? My wife asked. I did. It stung in the back of my throat. My fingers, old clumsy from years of work, hesitated over the ribbon, then stopped. Tape seams around the lid were double-layered, sloppy, like someone had sealed it in a hurry. My phone vibrated again. Speaker, Dad, Lena said, "What's to go on?" A week earlier, she'd stood in this same kitchen and said very calmly, "If you don't hand over our inheritance now, you'll regret it." Her words hit like a physical blow then, now they echoed. I slid the box an inch away. The chair leg scraped the cracked tile. Outside, a dog barked twice and went quiet. "Lena," I said, keeping my voice level, "what did you put in here?" "A surprise," she sang. "A big one. Open it." My wife shook her head. Her hands were trembling too. That was the moment I understood. This wasn't a present. It was bait. I took a breath, stepped back from the table, and reached for a different number, the one you call when you stop pretending that family won't hurt you. And hey, before I tell you what was inside, do me a favor, hit subscribe. Think of it as my way of asking for backup, because trust me, you'll want to stick around for what happened next. A week before the box showed up, my mornings were slow and predictable in the best way. Kettle on, radio low, bread machine chugging like an old bus. The kitchen light always took 2 flicks to wake up, buzzing like a lazy bee before it settled. I liked the quiet. Toast, a slice of cheese, 2 pickles. The chair by the window had a wobble I kept meaning to fix. It was my kind of to-do list, things no one else noticed but me. Outside, Mr. Peterson walked his terrier past my gate at 7:40 like he was punching a clock. He always lifted 2 fingers in a peace sign. I lifted my mug back. Routine is a kind of friendship when you get old. Emily used to text in full sentences. Lately it was bullets. "Rain due? Daycare crazy. Jason's car again. Can you help?" I helped. I always did. Transfers here, a grocery run there. I kept the receipts in a brown envelope in the second drawer, tucked under the tea towels. It made me feel like I was still steering something. The first chill came on a Thursday at the checkout line. The cashier, a girl with chipped purple nails, smiled at me. "Hi, Dad," she said to the guy behind me. I turned out of habit. Dad is a word that pulls your spine straight, only to find Jason waving at no one in particular, his phone angled just right, filming himself. He caught my eye and smirked. "Shopping for gold bars again?" he said, glancing at the milk and potatoes in my basket. "Yeah, dinner," I said. For one," he winked like he was telling a joke I wasn't invited to understand. At home, I rinsed lettuce and tried to shake it off. Little things shouldn't matter, but little things are gravel in your shoe. They don't kill you, they just make every step stupidly miserable. That night, Emily called late, voice sugar sweet and rushed. "Dad, do you have the papers Mom left, the will stuff?" "They're in the safe," I said. "Why?" "No reason. Jason's just curious about planning, being smart." "Planning for what?" "Life," she said, and then giggled at something on her side of the line. "Anyway, love you. You're the best." After we hung up, I stood in the hallway, staring at the black safe like it was a sleeping animal. The metal smelled faintly of oil. The key felt heavier than it used to. Friday brought sunshine and a list, fixed the gate latch, oiled the hinge on the pantry door, called the dentist. I like lists that end with a straight line through every task. It's proof you showed up for your own life. Midday, Emily popped by with a plastic container of store-bought pasta salad. "For you," she said, handing it over like a peace offering. I set it in the fridge. "You could have called. I'd have cooked." She walked through rooms like a realtor, eyes on the corners, on the frames, on the rug. Dad, why don't you sell this place? But she asked casually. Might move somewhere manageable, a condo, elevator, no stairs. You could free up some cash. I like my stairs, I said. It's not practical, she said, and then softer. I worry about you. She didn't look worried. She looked like someone counting chairs at an auction. When Jason arrived, he didn't take off his shoes. Mud kissed the hallway tiles. He noticed me notice and smiled. Relax, he said. It's just dirt. He opened the fridge, fingered the jars. You still doing the pickles? Old habits? We ate at the table, mostly quiet, forks like metronomes. Jason finally leaned back, laced his fingers behind his head and said, So, Dad, what's your plan? Long term. I'm here, I said. I fix what breaks, I pay what comes, I sleep. It's a nice plan. He laughed without humor. No, I mean for your assets, house, savings. It's irresponsible not to structure things while you're sharp. Sharp? I said. You know what I mean. Emily touched his arm. Don't, Jason. He shrugged. We're family, we should talk like adults. After they left, I wiped the table twice. Then a third time for no reason at all. The cloth smelled like lemon and old wood. In the sink, a fork clinked against porcelain in a way that sounded like the end of something. When Emily was little, she used to race me up the front steps, ponytail bouncing, sneakers slapping against the wood. Beat you again, she'd shout, even when I'd let her win by a mile. Back then, the house felt full, cartoons blaring, crayons forgotten on the coffee table, a dog barking at nothing in the yard. It's strange how silence can feel heavier than noise. These days, the living room mostly smells like lemon polish and old books. I keep the curtains half open, just enough light to make the place look alive. Sometimes I catch myself talking to the photographs. My wife's picture sits on the mantel, Emily at 5 years old tucked under her arm, frosting smeared across both their cheeks from some lopsided birthday cake we tried to bake. You'd know what to say to her now, I whispered once. The frame didn't answer. I remember covering Emily's first semester tuition with a cashier's check that felt like half my life savings. I'll pay you back, she promised, hugging me so tight I thought my ribs might crack. I told her not to. A father doesn't keep score. Jason came into the picture during her junior year. Clean haircut, smooth talk. He called me sir at first, which made me laugh. A year later, it was dad, casual, easy. I wanted to believe it was real. They struggled after college, like most kids do. Apartment rent always a little too high, cars always breaking down, jobs never quite enough. I stepped in, paid off the overdue bill once, then twice. Then so many times it stopped being an exception and turned into habit. One December, I handed Emily an envelope with cash so she could buy Christmas presents for Jason's nieces. She cried. Jason clapped me on the back and said, "You're a lifesaver." I told myself it was gratitude. Looking back, maybe it was relief that someone else was footing the bill. The first real crack came at Thanksgiving 2 years ago. Jason carved the turkey like he was hosting, and halfway through the meal, he raised his glass. "To the house on the hill," he said, grinning at Emily. "One day it'll be ours." The table went quiet except for the tick of the ceiling fan. Emily laughed nervously and nudged him. "Don't joke," I said. Jason didn't blink. "Who's joking?" I brushed it off. Holidays make people say stupid things. But the words hung in the air, sour, like smoke that never quite clears. After that, I started noticing the way Jason's eyes lingered on the walls, the furniture, the shelves, inventory eyes. Emily began asking questions about mortgages, about bank accounts, about the safe in my closet. Always just curious, always just planning. One night, she stopped by with Jason and brought a store-bought pie. "Thought we'd save you the trouble," she said. We sat at the table, pie half-eaten, conversation thin. Jason leaned back, crossed his arms. "Dad, you should really think about estate planning," he said. "I'm alive," as I answered. He smiled like I'd told a joke. "For now," Emily swatted his arm. "Jason," but she didn't deny it. Later that night, when I locked up, I stood by the safe longer than usual. The dial clicked under my fingers, cold, precise. I thought about changing the combination. I thought about moving the papers somewhere else, but it was late and habits are stronger than fear. In the quiet, the house creaked the way old houses do, except it didn't feel like settling wood. It felt like a reminder. Nothing lasts forever, not even family. It was the Sunday afternoon when Emily invited me to join them at a new diner in town. Casual, she promised, just burgers and milkshakes. Jason wants you there. The place was packed, neon signs buzzing, the smell of grease and onions thick enough to stick to your clothes. Jason slid into the booth like he owned it. Emily scooted beside him, leaving me across the sticky table. The waitress barely finished pouring coffee before Jason started. "So, Dad," he said, loud enough for the next booth to hear, "you ever think about downsizing?" "That big house is too much for one guy, right, Em?" She smiled weakly, stirring her straw. "I like my house," I said. Jason chuckled. "Sure, but think of the money. You'd be comfortable, and we could finally get a place with a yard. Everybody wins." The waitress set down the burgers. Jason didn't thank her. He just leaned forward, voice dropping half an octave. "You've done your part, sir. Time to pass the torch." I chewed in silence, the ketchup sweeter than usual, my hands shaking just enough to smear mustard on my sleeve. From the corner of my eye, I saw two teenagers at the counter glance back at us, smirking. When the check came, Jason reached for it, held it theatrically, then pushed it across the table towards me. "Your treat, Dad, right?" The smirk stayed on his face until I pulled out my card. Back home, I found the receipt and tucked it into the brown envelope with the others. The paper stack was growing thick, like proof of something I didn't want to admit. 2 weeks later, the pressure turned sharper. Emily called around 9 at night. Jason's voice echoed faintly in the background. "Dad, Jason, and I have been talking," she began carefully. "It doesn't make sense for you to wait. You could transfer things now while you're able." "Able?" I said. "You know what I mean. It'd make everything smoother. No probate, no hassle. We'd take care of you." Jason's voice cut in, louder this time. "Tell him it's stupid not to. He's sitting on equity, doing nothing while we're drowning." But Emily tried, but her tone lacked conviction. "Drowning?" I asked. "I've paid your rent, your car repairs, your..." Jason snapped. "That's scraps. We're talking real money." My chest tightened. The phone felt hot against my ear. I heard Emily sigh, then whisper, "Dad, please, don't make us beg." That was the first time I hung up on her. The next morning I woke to a note on my porch. No envelope, no greeting. Just one line in Jason's blocky handwriting. "Don't be selfish, family shares." I stood there with the paper trembling in my hands. Behind me the coffee maker hissed, the smell rich and bitter. Outside, Mr. Peterson passed with his terrier, nodding like always. He didn't see the note, and I didn't show him. I folded it once, twice, slid it into the same envelope as the receipts. It felt heavier now, like the beginning of a ledger I never wanted to keep. The breaking point came on a Wednesday evening. Emily and Jason showed up unannounced. No knock, just the front door swinging open like they owned the place. Jason tossed his jacket on a chair. "Let's cut it straight, Dad," he said. "We need the inheritance now." I blinked at him. "I'm alive, like I said, Tweeda. You inherit when I'm gone." Emily stepped forward, her eyes darting. "Why wait? It's just paperwork. You'd still have plenty. We'd finally breathe." Jason smirked. "You don't need 3 bedrooms and a yard. You need 1 chair and a TV remote." The words hit harder than a slap. My wife whispered from the hallway, "Don't." Her voice trembled. Jason kept going. "You think you're doing us favors with pocket change? Rent here, a car bill there. We're done begging. We want the house. We want it now." I stood, the chair legs screeching across the floor. "Out," I said. Emily reached for my arm. "Dad, don't make this ugly." Jason leaned in, his breath sharp with beer. "You're not listening. You give it up, or what?" I snapped. My voice cracked the room. Silence. Even the fridge stopped humming like it was holding its breath. Jason laughed low. "You'll see." Emily pulled him toward the door. She looked back once, but not at me, at the safe in the hallway. Her gaze lingered a second too long. Then the door slammed. The house echoed, the air smelled of dust and lemon cleaner. My hands shook against the table edge. I thought it was over, just a fight, just words. But the next week the box arrived. The box showed up on my porch just before noon. A delivery guy dropped it, scanned something, and drove off. No Amazon logo, no store label, just red ribbon, shiny paper, and a tag in Emily's handwriting. To Dad, with love. My wife spotted it through the window. Her hand clutched the curtain. Don't touch it, she whispered. It's from Emily. Please, leave it. My phone buzzed. Emily. Open it, Dad, she said cheerfully. Right now, put me on speaker. Her voice was sugar, but my stomach twisted. I set the box on the kitchen table. The ribbon was neat, but the tape seams were sloppy, rushed, like someone sealed it in a panic. A chemical smell leaked through, bitter, metallic, nothing like a gift. Emily, I said slowly, what's inside? A surprise, she sang. Jason's voice cut in sharp. Do it already. My wife shook her head. She stepped back like the box was a live animal. The fridge hummed, louder than usual. The clock on the stove blinked 12:00 in stubborn green. I reached for scissors. My hand trembled. The blade touched the ribbon, then I froze. Emily, I said again, what's in here? Silence. Then Jason laughed. You'll find out. I slid the box onto the porch, closed the door, turned the lock. Then I called the police. Suspicious package. My daughter sent it. The dispatcher hesitated. Your daughter? Yes, I snapped. My daughter. 20 minutes later, a cruiser pulled up. 2 officers in gloves. One leaned down, sniffed, frowned. This isn't a gift, he muttered. Meanwhile, Emily kept calling. 10 missed calls in a row. Then a text. Why'd you call them? Are you crazy? You'll regret this. Jason's number followed. Big mistake, old man. My wife stood by the sink, wringing a dish towel until water dripped onto the floor. What did they send you? She whispered. I couldn't answer. Not yet. The neighbors were watching. Mr. Peterson stopped mid-walk with his terrier staring across the street. The squad car's lights reflected off his glasses. I didn't meet his eyes. One officer carried the box carefully to the cruiser. The other stayed back with me. Sir, do you know what this is? I shook my head. He glanced at his partner, then lowered his voice. Inside, there's a bag of powder. Could be drugs, could be worse. We'll test it. My chest went hollow. Drugs, from my daughter's box. My wife covered her mouth, her eyes wide. They wanted to frame you, she whispered. The officer nodded slightly, professional but not cold. If you'd opened it, sir, if you'd touched the content, well, let's just say this was smart, very smart. My phone buzzed again. Emily. Against my better judgment, I picked up. Dad, she cried. Her voice cracked, practice maybe, but shaky. Why did you call the cops? It was a joke, just a prank. A prank, I said. My voice sounded strange, distant. Jason grabbed the phone. You ruined everything, old man. You think they'll believe you? You think cops don't see senile fathers flipping out at harmless gifts? The officer near me frowned, jotting something down. Jason, I said into the phone, you sent me drugs. That's not a prank, that's a crime. He laughed, but it was short, sour. Prove it. I held the phone away, showed the screen to the officer. He nodded, kept writing. Jason, I said quietly, you just did. By evening, the whole street knew. 2 squad cars had come, one unmarked, yellow tape across my porch, neighbors craned their necks. Mrs. Delgado from across the road whispered loudly to her husband, his own daughter. Mr. Peterson stood stiff with his terrier like watching a train wreck he couldn't look away from. I wanted to disappear. At 9 p.m., Emily came pounding at the door, my wife tensed beside me. I opened anyway. Her face was streaked with tears, real or not. Jason lurked behind her, arms crossed. Dad, you have to tell them it was nothing, she begged. They'll ruin our lives. Jason snarled. He called them, Em. He wanted this. You wanted to ruin me, I said flatly, and you nearly did. Emily grabbed my sleeve like she used to when she was 5. Please, you don't understand. Jason said it was safe. He said... Jason yanked her back. Shut up, Em. The officer inside my living room stepped forward. That's enough. Both of you, outside. Jason spat on my porch before dragging Emily away. The door shut, silence. Only the tick of the wall clock and the faint smell of lemon cleaner. I leaned against the frame, my heart thudding. It hit me. My own daughter tried to bury me alive. And the worst part? Some piece of me still wanted to believe she didn't mean it. That night the house felt smaller. Every creak of the floorboards sounded like footsteps coming for me. Every car door slamming outside made me flinch. I sat in the kitchen long after midnight, the clock blinking 12:00 like it had forgotten how to move forward. The brown envelope of receipts sat on the table. I didn't open it. I just stared, the paper edges sharp against the dim light. My wife brewed chamomile tea. She set the cup in front of me. I didn't touch it. "You should sleep," she whispered. "I can't. Emily will come around." I laughed, but it came out dry and bitter. "She sent me poison in wrapping paper. She's not coming around." The next morning, neighbors looked at me differently. Mr. Peterson raised his hand like always, but slower, hesitant, as if wondering what kind of man has cops at his door because of his own daughter. At the grocery store, the cashier avoided my eyes. I knew what she'd heard. Rumors grow faster than weeds. By the time I got home, 2 people had texted me the same thing. "You okay?" They didn't mean it. They meant, "We heard." I tried calling Emily. She didn't pick up. Jason did. "You're done," he said simply. "Jason, listen." "No, you listen. Drop the charges. Tell the cops it was a mix-up, or we'll make this uglier than you can handle." The line went dead. My hand shook so badly I dropped the phone. It clattered against the tile. I left it there. At dinner, my wife barely touched her food. "You can't keep this bottled," she said. "What do you want me to do? Pretend nothing happened?" But don't fight them. They're younger, stronger. They'll crush you." I stared at the soup. The steam fogged my glasses. "Oh, they already did?" For 3 nights, I didn't sleep properly. Tossing, pacing, staring at the ceiling. I heard Emily's voice in my head. "Dad, please, don't make us beg." But she had begged for my life, not for help. I thought about driving to her house, knocking on the door, demanding an explanation. Then I pictured Jason's smirk and Emily's silence, and I stayed home. On the 4th night, I sat alone in the living room. The TV flickered crime shows I wasn't watching. My wife had gone to bed. I looked at the photos again. Emily at 5 years old, frosting on her cheek. My wife laughing, back when love was simple. I pressed the frame against my forehead. It was cold, unyielding. That was when it hit me. They weren't just careless kids. They were predators circling a tired old man. And I had let them. I tried again. On Monday morning, I called Emily from the porch. The air smelled like cut grass. Someone down the street mowing before work. She answered after the 3rd ring. "Dad," she said, her tone sharp, "why are you making this worse?" "I'm not," I said quietly. "I just want to talk, without Jason." Silence. Then Jason's voice barked in the background. "Tell him no." "Emily, please." I said, "You're still my daughter. Whatever he's put in your head." Her voice broke in. "Don't blame Jason. He's just trying to protect us." Protect you from what? From me?" She hung up. I drove to the church on Maple Street. Pastor Reed had known me since before Emily was born. The wooden pews creaked under me as I explained everything. The box, the cops, the neighbors staring. He rubbed his chin. "Family can wound deeper than strangers, but forgiveness..." "Forgiveness?" My voice echoed in the empty hall. "They tried to put me in jail." He flinched, folded his hands. "Then maybe distance. Sometimes stepping away is the only way. Distance from my own daughter." That night, Jason showed up outside the gate, revving his car engine. He didn't come in. He just sat there, headlights aimed at my windows, horn blaring once, twice. My wife pulled the curtain aside, frightened. I walked out, stood at the edge of the driveway. "What do you want?" I shouted. His window rolled down. He grinned. "You know what I want? Papers, keys, or next time it won't be just noise." He drove off, tires squealing. The smell of burnt rubber hung in the night air. I tried one last time with Emily. I wrote her a letter. 4 pages, my handwriting shaky, lines crooked. I told her about the tuition I paid, the Christmas mornings, the way her mother used to braid her hair. I slid it into her mailbox, waited 3 days. When the envelope came back, it was ripped open, my words stuffed inside without care. A sticky note on top in Jason's handwriting. "Stop wasting ink." By then I understood. Talking wouldn't save me. They weren't asking anymore. They were taking. The breaking point came on a Thursday night. I couldn't sleep again. The house groaned in the wind, pipes ticking like a restless clock. I went downstairs, poured a glass of water. The kitchen smelled faintly of dill from the last jar of pickles I'd opened. On the table lay the ripped envelope, Jason's sticky note, "Stop wasting ink." I stared at it until my eyes blurred. Something in me snapped. I took the note, held it over the sink, and lit a match. The The flame licked the paper, curling his handwriting into ash. I let it burn down to my fingers before dropping it into the water. For the first time in weeks, my hands were steady. The next morning, I went to the shed. Tools lined the wall, dusty but ready. My wife found me polishing an old padlock, the same one I'd bought months earlier. "What are you doing?" she asked carefully. "Cleaning," I said. "Cleaning what?" "Housekeeping," I answered, and I smiled. Later, I walked to Mr. Peterson's fence. His terrier barked at me until he hushed it. "You look tired," he said. "I am." "You need help?" For a second, I almost told him everything, but then I shook my head. "I need time." He squinted. "You sound different." "Do I asked. "Yes, less scared." He was right. I wasn't scared anymore. That evening, I opened the brown envelope of receipts. Rent slips, car repairs, daycare bills. Years of proof that I'd kept them afloat. I laid them out in neat rows across the table. Then I added the note from Jason, the texts, the call log, evidence. The safe clicked open under my hands. I pulled out the deed to the house, my wife's will, bank documents, spread them out beside the receipts. For the first time, the mess looked like a map. I whispered to the empty room, "You wanted a fight, you'll get one." The next morning, I shaved, dressed in my cleanest shirt, and drove to town. First stop, the bank. The clerk smiled politely. "Mr. Miller, how can we help you today?" "I want to review all accounts," I said, "and make some changes." Her fingers froze on the keyboard. "Changes?" "Yes, new beneficiaries, new locks," quietly. She glanced at me uncertain. "Do you have documentation?" I slid the folder across the counter. Receipts, deeds, copies, years of paper. Her eyes widened. "We can set this up today." Second stop, Oakwood Realty. The office smelled of coffee and carpet glue. The realtor, a young man with sharp glasses, shook my hand. "You're interested in selling?" "Not yet," I said, "but I want an appraisal, confidential." He walked through the house 2 days later, clipboard in hand. Emily and Jason had no idea. I also met a lawyer, gray suit, sharp tie. He read Jason's note twice, then the texts. "Sir, this is harassment," he said. If they push further, it's criminal." "Good," I said. "I want it on record." He leaned back, impressed. "Like, you're building a case?" "I am building a wall," I corrected. "One they won't climb." At home, I acted soft. When Emily called, I kept my voice weak. "I don't know what to do anymore," I told her. She softened immediately. "Dad, just sign the papers. Jason can help. You'll rest easier." I mumbled, maybe you're right." She didn't hear the click of my pen behind the phone, noting the exact time and date of her words. By the end of the week, I had 3 folders hidden in the shed. One for the bank, one for the lawyer, one for me. Every threat, every text, every insult, they weren't just pain anymore, that they were weapons. And for the first time in months, I slept. At first, I thought my plan was safe. Papers locked away, lawyer on call, bank accounts shifted. I almost felt untouchable. Then the cracks showed. It started with the mailbox, bent door, letters scattered on the sidewalk like confetti. My electric bill lay half ripped in the gutter. Mr. Peterson saw me picking it up. "Kids?" he asked. "Not kids," I said. He gave me a look, the kind that says he already knew. That night, the phone rang at 1 a.m. unknown number. I picked up anyway. Breathing, then Jason's voice, low. "Old man, paper walls don't stop fire." Click. I sat there in the dark, phone glowing in my hand. The hum of the fridge louder than my pulse. 2 days later at the grocery store, Emily's friend Karen passed me in the bread aisle. She leaned close, whispering like she was sharing gossip. "I heard you've been unstable. Emily said you're paranoid. Maybe you should see someone." Her perfume was sweet, sickly. I clenched the basket handle until the plastic creaked. Back home, the garage door wouldn't close. Someone had forced it, the hinge bent. Inside, my tools were scattered. Nothing stolen, just moved. A warning. I stood there, the smell of oil and dust filling my nose, and realized they weren't just pushing. They were circling, testing the walls. That evening, my wife found me at the kitchen table with the receipts spread out again. "You're scaring me," she said softly. "I'm not the one breaking into garages. They're your children." "No," I said. My voice felt like gravel. "Not anymore." Saturday afternoon, the doorbell rang. When I opened, Emily stood there alone. No makeup, hair pulled back, eyes red. "Dad," she whispered, "can I come in?" I let her. The house smelled of fresh coffee. I just poured a cup. She didn't sit, just wrung her hands, pacing. I don't want to fight anymore, she said. Neither do I answered. Then just give Jason what he's asking. He's under so much pressure. We both are. Yeah, but you could fix everything with one signature. Her voice cracked. She looked so much like the little girl who once begged for ice cream that for a second I almost broke. Then headlights swept across the window. Jason's truck. He barged in without knocking. Ah, there she is, he sneered, grabbing Emily's shoulder. Crying to Daddy again? Jason, I warned. Save it. He turned to her. I told you not to come here alone. Then his eyes locked on me. You think you're clever, but everyone knows you're losing it. Emily's friends, neighbors, they've all heard. Old man gone crazy, accusing his own daughter. Pathetic. Emily flinched. Jason, stop. No, he barked. He needs to hear it. The front door was still open. Mr. Peterson was outside, leash in hand, frozen mid-step. I knew he heard every word. Jason leaned closer, his breath sour with beer. You're nothing but dead weight. Sign it over or you'll be the one begging. My wife appeared at the hallway, pale, trembling. Please, just leave. Jason laughed, loud and sharp, echoing through the street. Then he spat on my floor, yanked Emily by the wrist, and dragged her outside. From the porch, he shouted for everyone to hear. This house isn't his anymore. He just doesn't know it yet. Neighbors' curtains twitched. A car slowed as it passed. The shame pressed down heavier than his words. I stood in the doorway, fists tight, saying nothing. On the surface, weak. Inside, a storm. The letter came on a Tuesday. Plain envelope, police department seal. I opened it at the kitchen table, hands already shaking. You are requested for questioning regarding a harassment complaint. Harassment against my own daughter. At the station, the air smelled of bleach and burnt coffee. A young officer led me to a small room with buzzing lights. He set a file on the table. Mr. Miller, your daughter says you've been threatening her. Calls, letters, stalking. I almost laughed, but the sound caught in my throat. She sent me drugs in a gift box, I said. He raised his eyebrows. Do you have proof? I slid the receipts, the note, the text across the table. His face stayed blank, but he wrote something down. We'll review this. For now, stay away from her. No contact. No contact with my own child. When I got home, my wife was waiting at the door. What happened? They're trying to flip it, I said. She's painting me as the monster. Tears welled in her eyes. Maybe we should stop. Sell the house, give them something, end this. I slammed my fist against the wall. The picture frames rattled. That's what they want, to bleed me dry until nothing's left. She covered her face with her hands. You're scaring me more than they do. Her words cut deeper than Jason's. That night I sat in the dark living room, TV off, the hum of the refrigerator carrying through the walls. For the first time, doubt gnawed at me. Maybe they were too strong. Maybe I was too old. But then I looked at the safe in the hallway, and I remembered Jason's smirk when he said, paper walls don't stop fire. My fear hardened into something colder. The call from my lawyer came early morning. Mr. Miller, I've reviewed everything you gave me, the notes, the texts, the receipts, it's solid. If they push again, we have a case. For the first time in weeks, I exhaled without shaking. Thank you, I whispered. He paused. You've done more than most, just stay steady. They'll trip over their own greed. I hung up, sat in silence, the smell of fresh coffee filling the kitchen. For a moment, I felt safe. That night, the storm came back. Literally, rain slammed the windows, thunder rolling like drums. Around midnight, a crash shattered the calm. I ran to the living room, glass everywhere. A brick lay on the carpet, rain pouring through the broken window. Attached was a note, Jason's handwriting again. Last warning. Neighbors saw the flashing lights when the police came. Again. Mr. Peterson shook his head, muttering something I couldn't hear. But this time it wasn't just a window. When I stepped outside, the smell hit me. Sharp, chemical, acrid. The trash bin by the driveway was on fire. Flames licked high, rain hissing against them. One of the officers stomped it out with a heavy boot. Sir, this is escalating. You need protection? I nodded, but inside I thought, no. They do? The next day, Jason parked across the street. Engine idling, music blasting. He didn't come to the door. He just stared. Emily sat beside him, face pale, eyes fixed on the wheel. She never looked at me. After 20 minutes, the truck screeched off, tires tearing the pavement. My wife whispered, "They won't stop." I answered, steady this time. "Neither will I." I let them believe I was tired, that I was weak, that I was finally ready to give in. Emily called on a Sunday morning. Her voice was soft, almost childlike. "Dad, can we come by? Jason said he'll bring the papers. You don't have to fight anymore. You can rest." I paused long enough for her to think I was hesitating. Then I said, "All right, bring them." The house felt different that day. I opened the windows, let the autumn air drift through. The smell of wet leaves mixed with the faint scent of coffee grounds from the kitchen. My wife looked at me across the table. "You're not really signing, are you?" she asked. I didn't answer, just squeezed her hand under the table. She studied me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "You're playing them." At noon, Jason's truck pulled into the driveway, engine rumbling like it owned the place. Emily sat in the passenger seat, head bowed as if praying. Jason strutted to the door first, papers in hand. "Well, look at that," he smirked. The old man finally saw sense. Emily followed, eyes darting everywhere but at me. We sat at the kitchen table, the same table where I'd once taught Emily her multiplication tables, where we'd shared birthday cakes and late-night pizza. Now it was a battlefield. Jason slapped the folder down. "Just sign here, Miller. Make it easy on everyone." His voice dripped with confidence. He thought he'd already won. I picked up the pen. My hand shook, not from fear, but from restraint. I looked him in the eye. "Do you have a witness?" I asked. Jason frowned. "Don't need one. Like, we got the papers, we got your signature. That's it." I smiled thinly. "You'll want a witness." Emily finally spoke. Her voice was trembling. "Dad, please, just do it. We can all stop fighting. You'll be safe." Safe. From her, from Jason. The irony nearly made me laugh. I bent over the papers. The pen touched the line, just enough to make Jason lean forward. Greedy eyes locked on the page. But I didn't sign. I capped the pen. And I slid the folder back across the table. "Tomorrow," I said, "at the lawyer's office, with witnesses." Jason's face darkened. Emily's lips parted like she wanted to protest, but nothing came out. I stood steady now. "If you want this so bad, you'll do it properly, or not at all." Jason's jaw clenched. For a second, I thought he'd hit me. But then he grinned, all teeth and menace. Fine. Tomorrow, old man, don't chicken out." As they left, I caught Emily glancing back. For the first time, doubt flickered in her eyes. The door closed, silence settled. My wife came out from the hallway. "You scared me," she whispered. I exhaled slowly, chest tight. I scared myself, I admitted, but inside, for the first time, I felt ready. The next morning, I wore my old gray suit. It smelled faintly of mothballs, stiff from hanging in the closet too long. My wife adjusted the crooked tie with trembling fingers. "You don't have to do this," she whispered. "I do," I said. The lawyer's office sat downtown, above a bakery that always smelled of sugar and yeast. The elevator clanked its way up, each floor groaning like it might collapse. Jason and Emily were already waiting in the hallway when I arrived. Jason leaned against the wall, whistling, folder tucked under his arm like a trophy. Emily stared at the floor. "Well, well," Jason grinned. "Look who actually showed up. Thought you'd be too scared to face the music. Let's get this over with," I said quietly. Inside, the office smelled of polished wood and stale coffee. My lawyer, Mr. Davis, greeted us with calm politeness. He gestured toward the long table. Jason flopped into a chair, spreading his papers out like cards. "All right, old man, here's the deal. You sign today, we take care of the taxes, the house stays in the family, everyone wins." Emily added softly, "Please, Dad, this is the best way." Jason smirked at her. "See, even your daughter agrees. Don't make this harder than it has to be." I sat opposite them, my palms flat on the cool table. Mr. Davis cleared his throat. "Mr. Miller, before you sign anything, I need to ask, are you doing this willingly?" Jason laughed. "Oh, come on, look at him. He's old, tired, confused. This is his chance to make things right before he—" "Jason," I interrupted, my voice steady, "I'm not confused." His smile faltered just for a moment. Then he leaned in. "Then prove it. Sign." Emily finally lifted her eyes. They glistened, but her lips stayed pressed tight. I could almost hear her breath catch. I picked up the pen again. The silence stretched, just the hum of the old ceiling fan, the faint smell of yeast drifting up from the bakery downstairs. Jason tapped the table impatiently. Do it already. I looked at him, really looked. The arrogance, the greed, the certainty that I was beaten. Then I set the pen down. Tomorrow, I said. I'll sign tomorrow, but not here. Jason slammed his hand on the table, papers scattering. You're wasting everyone's time, he barked. Tomorrow, I repeated calmly, with the neighbors as witnesses. Mr. Davis glanced at me, then at Jason. His expression never changed, but his eyes told me he understood. He was on my side. Jason stood so quickly his chair toppled. Emily flinched at the noise. You think this is a game, old man? Tomorrow, fine, but if you pull another stunt... I met his glare. Then you'll see what a real game looks like. We left the office in silence. Jason stormed ahead, Emily trailing behind, her shoulders hunched. On the street, the smell of fresh bread hung heavy in the air. My wife touched my arm. You're dragging this out, she said softly. I know, I replied. Her eyes searched mine. Why? Because, I said, the longer they think they're winning, the sweeter the fall. The next day I mowed the lawn. The grass was damp, the mower sputtering, the smell of gasoline hanging in the air. I wanted it to look ordinary, like I had nothing to hide. By evening I knew Jason would come. That was the plan, and I wanted the neighbors outside. At 6 sharp, his truck roared into the driveway. Doors slammed. Jason marched up, Emily trailing behind, clutching the folder like a shield. All right, old man, Jason shouted, before even reaching the porch. Let's finish this circus. Curtains shifted across the street. Mr. Peterson stepped onto his porch with his terrier tugging at the leash. 2 teenagers on bikes stopped at the corner, watching. Exactly what I wanted. Jason jabbed a finger at me. Oh, you think you're clever, dragging us around town, making us look stupid. But this ends tonight. Emily's voice shook. Dad, please, just sign it. Everyone's watching. Jason spun on her. Shut up. He's the reason we're in this mess. Her cheeks flushed red. She looked down at her shoes. The front door creaked. My wife stood there pale, holding a dish towel. Jason, lower your voice, she said. He laughed loud and harsh. What, why? So the neighbors don't hear, and they already know he's lost it, don't they? He turned to the street. Tell me, Peterson, would you trust your house to this senile old man? Mr. Peterson froze. The terrier barked once sharply. My chest tightened, but I forced myself to stay calm. You wanted witnesses, Jason, I said evenly. Now you have them. He blinked. What? You said I was hiding, that I was scared, but I'm not. Tonight everyone will see who you really are. The words hung heavy in the warm evening air. The smell of cut grass mixed with gasoline, sharp and sour. Jason's face twisted. You're dead, Miller. You don't even know it yet. Emily whispered something, but he yanked her arm and pulled her closer, his voice rising. You've got one last chance. Sign or I'll... The words cut off when a police cruiser turned the corner, headlights washing over us. Jason froze, his grip on Emily tightening before he slowly let go. Neighbors murmured. The teenagers pedaled away fast. Mr. Peterson's eyes narrowed. Jason forced a smile, his voice suddenly sugar-sweet. Just a family dispute, officer. Nothing serious. But everyone had already heard the threats. Inside, my wife's hands shook as she set the dish towel down. You're pushing too far, she whispered. Not yet, I said, staring at Jason's truck pulling away. But almost. The meeting wasn't at the lawyer's office this time. I insisted it happen in my house. The same kitchen table where it all began. Jason didn't like that, but greed made him agree. They arrived just after sunset. Jason barged in like he owned the place, boots muddy, tracking dirt across the floor. Emily followed, silent, holding the folder again. Sit down, I told them. My voice was steady, too steady. Jason smirked. Finally, the moment we've been waiting for. He dropped the papers on the table, the sound sharp as a gunshot. I poured coffee, the smell filled the kitchen. Dark, bitter, heavy. My wife stayed in the doorway, arms folded, watching like a ghost. Jason leaned forward, voice dripping venom. You dragged this out long enough, old man. Time to hand over what's not yours anymore. I set his cup in front of him. He didn't touch it. Emily finally spoke, her voice breaking. Dad, I'm begging you, but just sign. I can't take this anymore. Her eyes glistened. For a heartbeat, I almost saw the girl I once carried on my shoulders through the county fair, sticky with cotton candy, laughing at the fireworks. But then Jason barked at her. Stop crying, he's playing you. He'll never sign unless we force him. I slid a new folder across the table, thicker, heavier. Jason frowned, snatched it open. Inside, deeds, bank statements, letters from my lawyer. and one page on top stamped official transfer of ownership completed. Jason's grin faltered, his eyes darted across the words. What the hell is this? I leaned back, sipping my coffee. That's what happens when you push too hard. The house, the accounts, protected, you can't touch them now. Jason slammed the table so hard the cups rattled. You think this is over? His voice cracked too loud, spilling into the hallway. Emily grabbed his arm. Jason, stop. But he yanked free. He rounded the table, fists balled, face red. For a second, I thought he'd swing. The smell of coffee mixed with sweat, sharp and bitter in the air. Go ahead, I told him quietly. Hit me in front of her, in front of everyone. Emily gasped. Jason, don't. But Jason's rage was a flood with no dam. He shoved the chair aside, knuckles white. That's when headlights swept the window. Another cruiser. I had made the call earlier just in case. Jason froze, chest heaving, veins standing out on his neck. Emily's face went pale. The knock came sharp. Police, open up. Jason stepped back, eyes wild. He hissed under his breath. Oh, you set me up. I met his stare, calm as stone. No, Jason, you set yourself up. The officers entered, the smell of wet asphalt following them in. They looked at the broken cup on the floor, Jason's clenched fists, Emily's tears. One of them said firmly, Sir, we need everyone to stay seated. Jason cursed, pacing, fists still twitching. Emily sank into a chair, sobbing quietly. And for the first time in months, the power wasn't his. The officers stepped inside, boots dripping rainwater onto the tile. One of them, tall and broad-shouldered, scanned the room in a slow circle. His eyes lingered on Jason's fists, then on Emily's trembling shoulders. What's going on here? The officer asked. Jason forced a laugh, too loud, too sharp. Family drama, nothing serious, just an old man refusing to let go of what's not his anymore. Emily whispered, Jason, please stop. The officer's gaze shifted to me. Mr. Miller? I nodded toward the folder on the table. You'll want to see those. He picked it up, flipping through the pages. His partner leaned over, eyebrows raising higher with each sheet. Bank transfers, deeds, the lawyer's notarized letters. Jason lunged forward, snatching at the folder. That's private. The officer stepped between us. Sir, sit down. Jason's face flushed crimson. This is bull. I said sit down, the officer repeated, voice steel. From the porch, voices murmured, neighbors. The open door had drawn them in. Mr. Peterson stood in the rain, his terrier barking at Jason like it could smell the rot in him. Two women from across the street huddled under an umbrella, whispering, eyes wide. Jason noticed them. He sneered. What are you staring at? This isn't your business. But the neighbors didn't move. They stayed, watching, bearing witness. Emily broke then. She buried her face in her hands, sobs shaking her shoulders. Dad, I didn't mean for it to go this far. I thought Jason could help us. I thought... Jason whirled on her. Shut up, Emily. The room went dead silent. Even the rain seemed to pause. The officer's jaw tightened. Sir, step away from her. Jason raised his hands, mock innocence. Oh, so now I'm the bad guy. You don't know the half of it. This old fool, he's crazy. He made all this up. Everyone knows he's loose in it. I reached into my jacket. Jason flinched, but I only pulled out a small recorder. I set it on the table, pressed play. Jason's own voice filled the kitchen, grainy but clear. Old man, paper walls don't stop fire. The neighbors outside gasped. Emily's sobs turned into quiet wails. Jason's bravado cracked. His eyes darted between the officers, the recorder, the faces at the door. That's fake, he shouted. The officer shook his head slowly. Doesn't sound fake. My wife finally stepped forward, voice trembling but loud enough for everyone to hear. He's been threatening us for weeks, breaking things, sending notes, showing up at night. We were afraid to sleep. Jason stared at her, then at me. You think this ends me? You think some papers and a toy recorder? His words broke off when the officer pulled out a pair of cuffs. The click echoed louder than thunder. Sir, you're coming with us for questioning. Jason's rage boiled over. You can't do this. He's my father-in-law. He owes us... Emily's voice, cracked and broken, rose through her tears. No, Jason, he doesn't owe you anything. The neighbors whispered. Mr. Peterson muttered, about time? As Jason was led toward the door, rain splattering against his boots. He twisted his head back to me, eyes burning with hate. This isn't over, old man. I stood tall steady for the first time in months. Yes, Jason, I said coldly. It is. The cruiser door slammed. The lights flashed red and blue against the wet pavement. The neighbors scattered back to their homes, whispers trailing behind them. Inside, Emily sat motionless, face in her hands. My wife stood beside me, silent. I exhaled. The storm had broken, but I knew one more strike remained. The house felt hollow after the cruiser pulled away. The flashing lights faded, leaving only the hum of the fridge and the ticking of the old wall clock. Emily still sat at the table, shoulders shaking. Her mascara had streaked down her cheeks, black rivers cutting through pale skin. I poured her a glass of water, set it in front of her. She didn't touch it. Finally, she spoke. Her voice was raw, rasping. Dad, I didn't want it like this. I stared at her, quiet. She lifted her head, eyes red and swollen. I thought Jason was right, that you had more than you needed, that we deserved some of it, but I never wanted the box, the fire, the police. I just wanted help. My chest ached. I thought of the little girl who once curled up on my lap to watch Saturday morning cartoons, her laughter filling the room. But then I remembered the sticky note. Stop wasting ink. The mailbox ripped open, the brick through the window, and I knew. Emily, I said slowly, you chose him over me, again and again, even when he dragged you down with him. She shook her head violently. I was scared. He said if I didn't stand with him, he'd... Her words cut off when I placed another folder on the table. She froze. Inside were copies of everything, the texts, the bank records, the threats, and her signature on the paperwork Jason had pushed. Proof she'd been part of it. Her breath hitched. Dad, please, don't show anyone that. My wife stood in the doorway, arms folded, eyes hard. You already showed enough, Emily. The neighbors heard everything. The police have the rest. Emily's lip trembled. She looked from her mother to me, desperate. I'll fix it. I'll testify against Jason. I'll make it right. I leaned forward, my voice low, cold. You can't fix trust once it's broken. Her tears came harder, spilling onto the table. From outside I heard Mr. Peterson's door shut. Curtains across the street swayed closed. Word would spread faster than fire now. Everyone knew. Emily's reputation, Jason's future, gone. I gathered the folders, stacked them neatly. Each page, each note, each photo had been a weapon. Now they were done. Emily whispered, almost to herself. What will people say about me? I looked at her. For once, no anger, just emptiness. They'll say the truth. I stood, pushing the chair back. My knees cracked, the sound sharp in the quiet room. This house is mine, my name, my sweat, my years. You tried to take it with lies and fire. Now you'll walk away with nothing. She flinched like I'd slapped her. At the door I paused, looked back one last time. She sat hunched, broken, the folder still in front of her. You asked me for help, I said, but family isn't about taking, it's about giving, and you forgot that. I let the silence hang heavy as stone. Then I added the final words, flat and final. You're no longer welcome here. The door shut behind me with a hollow thud. The air outside was cool, damp with rain. For the first time in months, I breathed without fear. The fight was over, and I had won. The days after felt unreal. Word spread quickly. Neighbors stopped whispering when I walked by. Now they nodded, offered quiet smiles. For the first time in months, I wasn't the crazy old man. I was just me again. Jason, out on bail, but his swagger was gone. His truck sat silent at the far end of the block. No more music rattling the windows. Emily, she disappeared. No calls, no visits, nothing. My wife and I ate dinner in silence most nights. The house felt bigger, emptier, safer too. One morning a letter came. No return address, Emily's handwriting. I'm sorry, I didn't know how far it would go. I hope one day you forgive me. The words blurred as I read them. For a second I felt something, grief maybe, or anger. I folded the note, slid it into a drawer, and locked it. Family is supposed to be a two-way road, but when it turns into a one-way street, when all they do is take, you hit the end. And I did. I thought that was it, that the storm had passed, until 2 weeks later I came home to find the front door unlocked. Inside, the living room smelled faintly of perfume, Emily's perfume. On the table lay another note, scribbled fast, ink smudged. He's watching you. He says, if I don't help, he'll burn it all. I can't stop him this time. My blood ran cold. I looked around the room. The curtains swayed, though no window was open. And in the corner by the hallway, a muddy boot print marked the floor. I froze. The house was silent, too silent. And I realized this wasn't over. The days after the police took Jason were not as calm as I had hoped. Rumors spread fast. Faster than truth, faster than reason. At the grocery store, a man I'd known for 20 years leaned toward the cashier and whispered, his eyes sliding toward me. She looked up, then down quickly, cheeks pink. I stood there, milk in hand, and realized my name was already a story in other people's mouths. One evening, 2 officers returned, not to arrest Jason this time, but to clarify. One of them, younger, polite but distant, kept asking the same question in different ways. Mr. Miller, are you sure you didn't provoke him? Did you perhaps misinterpret their intentions? My wife sat beside me trembling, and I could see it in her eyes. She was afraid they might believe him over me. I leaned forward, voice steady, and slid the folder across the table again. Read it, I said. Every word, every date, every receipt, that's the truth, not his. The officer nodded, but the doubt lingered in his expression as he left. Doubt is a poison that spreads quietly. Neighbors, too, started showing their true colors. Mr. Peterson still raised his hand, but it was slower now, like he wasn't sure. Mrs. Delgado whispered loud enough for me to hear. First his daughter, now the police. Maybe he really is losing it. The shame burned hotter than Jason's insults. Betrayal from your own blood is one thing, but suspicion from people who used to greet you with smiles, that cuts deeper. 2 weeks later, Jason reappeared, out on bail, swagger gone, but venom intact. He stood across the street at dusk, hands shoved deep in his jacket, staring at my window. He didn't shout, he didn't threaten, just stared until the sun dropped and the shadows took him. Emily wasn't with him. That worried me more than if she had been. The next Sunday I went to church, not for prayer, I had none left, but because I knew they would be there. Not Jason and Emily, the neighbors, the town, the people who whispered. Pastor Reed's sermon blurred into background noise as I scanned the pews. Eyes flicked toward me, then away, some full of pity, others sharp with judgment. I stood when the service ended, throat tight, and said loudly enough for all to hear, my daughter tried to bury me with lies, with fear, with fire, and if you believe her over me, then you never knew me at all. The silence was heavy, like a curtain dropping. No one spoke. Some turned their heads, others shuffled out quickly. But just a few nodded, and that was enough. That night, Emily came alone, her hands shook, her eyes swollen. Dad, she whispered, Jason's not done. He says if you don't give him what he wants, he'll burn the house with us in it. Her voice cracked. She looked small, fragile, like the girl I once carried on my shoulders. But then I remembered the gift box, the fire, the brick. You chose him, I said quietly. Tears streamed down her cheeks. I was scared. Fear doesn't excuse betrayal. Jason didn't wait long to prove her right. 2 nights later, smoke curled against the kitchen window. Our trash bin again? But this time gasoline poured thick, flames clawing higher. The fire department came, hoses roaring, neighbors gathering barefoot in the streets. And when the flames died, scrawled in black spray paint across my garage door were 4 words. Old man, no escape. That was the last line for me. I wasn't just defending my house anymore, I was defending my life. The next morning I met with Mr. Davis, my lawyer. His office smelled of paper and dust, stacks of files leaning like tired soldiers. I laid the photographs of the fire, the threats, the graffiti on his desk. This ends now, I told him. He nodded slowly. Then we take it public. And so we did. 2 weeks later, in the town hall where Jason thought he'd corner me, I laid everything bare, photos, receipts, recordings. Neighbors sat in the back whispering. Officers in uniform stood at the sides. Jason strutted in, Emily trailing, and tried to grin like the predator he wanted to be. But when the recorder played his voice for everyone to hear, old man, paper walls don't stop fire, the grin died. Emily sobbed into her hands. Jason lunged, shouting it was fake. It was a setup. But the room had already turned. The whispers weren't against me anymore. They were against him. By the time the cuffs clicked shut again, the whole town had seen him for what he was. and Emily, broken beside him, finally whispered the truth. He made me choose, and I chose wrong, but by then it was too late. I walked out into the night air, cool and clean after rain, and for the first time in months, I felt light. Not because justice had been done, but because the weight was no longer mine alone to carry. Everyone knew now, and knowing is its own kind of freedom. Jason was finished, Emily was lost, and me, I was still standing. But in the silence of my house that night, I knew one thing for certain. Family wounds don't close, they scar, and every scar tells a story. And mine was far from over,